Good afternoon, madam. I am Amylia Assam. My student ID is SCSWK240461. I will present my course code is CDT4024 Observation and Assessment in Early Childhood Education. Now I'll begin my presentation. So this is the list of content from my assignment. So I got definition and description of method, step involved in using the method, strengths and advantage, weaknesses and limitations, and lastly situation or developmental areas where each method is the most appropriate. So the first one, I choose the narratives. The narrative have two records, which are running record and anecdotal record. So narrative is a brief written description of a significant child behavior or incident observed in a natural setting. So the running record is a detailed, objective narrative of behavior recorded in a sequential manner as it happens or takes place. It is on the spot written notes of what a child says and does within a unit of time. Depending on the observation, it may be supported by the diagrams, photographs, and sample of children's work. The running record is written in the present tense as the observation and the recording of it take place concurrently. So the anecdotal record is a brief narrative account of what happened in a factual, objective, and manner. This is often written after the observation by the observer and thus in the past tense. The next one, I choose checklist. Checklist is a familiar tool for shopping or jobs to be done. It is also a common use in recording stage of development. Checklist indicates presence or absence of specific behaviors. Attention is focused on the behavior to be learned. Next, I choose time sampling. Time sampling records a child's behavior at fixed time intervals. So the step involved in method. Step involved in method for narrative running record. Choose a child and time duration. Then record all observed behaviors continuously. And lastly, analysis the patterns after observation. The next one, step involved in narrative anecdotal record. Observe a specific incident, then record what happened objectively, and lastly, reflect on the meaning of the behavior. The next step involved in checklist. Prepare a list of behaviors or skills. Observe the child during activities and lastly, tick items that are observed. And the last method, step involved in time sampling. Select the behavior and time interval. Observe at the specific times and lastly record whether the behaviors occur or not. Next one, strength and advantage. Narrative running records. So the strengths are very detailed and acute. So the sequence of behavior and useful for in-depth analysis. So the advantage of it, no advanced preparation is required. The recording is rich in detail. Record is complete and comprehensive. And lastly, able to capture the setting and the situation. For the narrative and data record, the strengths are provide rich, detailed information, capture the real-life behavior, and useful for understanding social and emotional development. So the advantage are does not need any special training. It is written shortly after the observation. One may choose to record only the significant behavior for what is remembered. A pool of observed behavior can be formed over time for study. The next one, checklist. Its strengths are easy and quick to use, suitable for a large group, and helps track developmental milestones. The advantages are simple to use and consume little time, no special training required, large amount of information can be collected, the observation of more than one child, easily to understand and interpret, keep track of a child, then observe the children's various skills or behavior. The same checklist can be used by different observers. and lastly can be used in many situations. The last one, time stamping. So the strengths are good for identify the behavior patterns and efficient for repetitive behavior. So the advantages are provide useful information on interval and frequency of selected behavior, is simple and quick, easily to understood, systematic, objective as behavior is specific, collect data on few children or a number of behaviors at once, possible for large number of recordings, and lastly, quantitative result. So the weakness and the limitation are for narrative running record, the weakness are require full attention, not practical for observing many children at once. So the limitation, it is time consuming. The data gathered is unstructured. There may be certain degree of bias. The observer may have dilemmas of what and how much to record. And lastly, the observer may miss out the important detail. Okay. For the narrative at the data record, the weaknesses are also time consuming and can be subjective if not written carefully. So the limitation is may not give a complete picture, delay in writing may cause inaccuracy, and lastly lead to bias, biasness. For the checklist, the weakness are lack of detailed information, does not explain how or why the behavior occurred. The limitation are reliability of checklist depend on the soundness of the checklist. Some knowledge may be required in the design of a clear and reliable checklist. And lastly, no information about the quality of behavior. And lastly, time stamping. The weakness are may mix the important behaviors and less detail. The limitation are time sampling limited information, not detail. No description provided, unlike the event sampling. Focus only on behaviors that can be easily seen and count. And concern with time interval and lastly limited to behavior that occur frequently and also time consuming. Now I will go for comparison tasks, which is the observation and assessment method. Narrative running record continuous retail records of behavior over a period of time. The strengths are its strength is very detailed and show behavior sequence. But the weakness, it requires full attention and not practical for groups. But it is the best used when in deep observation of one child. The next one, narrative anecdotal record. It is short written description of a significant behavior or incident. Its strength it is rich in detail and capture the real behavior. But the weaknesses is it is time consuming and might be subjective if not read carefully. But it is best used when understanding the social and emotional behavior. The next one, checklist. Checklist is a list of specific skills or behavior to be marked as observed or not observed. It is quick, easy to use, suitable for the last group, but it is lack of detail and does not explain the behavior. Checklist is best used when monitoring the developmental milestones. And lastly, time sampling. Time sampling recording the behavior of child at fixed time intervals. It can identify the pattern and more efficient, but it might be mix a lot of important behaviors. Time sampling, the best use time is when tracking the frequent or repeated behavior. Now I will go for situation or developmental areas where each method is the most appreciated. For narrative running record, it is most appreciated for language development, social interaction, and play behavior. It is good to use in situation for observing one child during free play, studying interaction patterns, and research for in-depth assessment. For narrative anecdotal record, most appreciated for social development such as sharing or cooperation. The next one, emotional development such as frustration and confidence. And lastly, behavioral concerns. The situation may be when between the conflict between children or emotional outbursts or their achievement. Next one, checklist. Most appreciated for physical development such as gross and fine motor skill, language milestone, and self-help skills such as dressing or eat independently. The best situation is are during the routine of classroom activities, screening, development progress, and last group observation. And last one, time sampling. Most appreciated for attention span, repetitive behavior, and behavior management. The most suitable situation are when monitoring the destructive behavior, and lastly, tracking on task versus the off-task behavior. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.